All right, now that sets us up for another 12 bars and a new variation. A lot of these variations, I'm almost trying to like mimic a piano in the way I'm approaching the guitar. So I'm taking the idea that is Willie Brown's brilliant idea, which uses this combination of open strings and fretted notes to create this beautiful cross-picking boogie-woogie bass line up here around the 7th fret. And now I'm going to add a phrase that's played with sixes, the interval of a sixth. So it's going to be played out on the 3rd and 1st string or the 4th and 2nd string. So that's the top. So the pull-off is really the 4th finger. The 3rd finger is going to kind of stay anchored down to an A7 shape. So it's either going to go to an A or a D9, or D7 rather. All right, so let's see how that works with the bass line. All right, so let's see how that goes a little slower. Notice when I go to my next phrase, I'm going to hit that E. So it's going to go. So you have a partial bar creating this piece of a D7 chord. Gets a little complicated because you have to cultivate this ability to do this reach with your 4th finger. These kind of shapes you're going to find if you're grabbing up on your guitar, they're going to be almost impossible to do. You've got to pull your hand down so your hand will have a look to it like an arch, like this, as opposed to being like this. This is kind of cramped, you see? You want it to have this arch. This arch will allow you to make these kind of reaches a lot better. So look at your hand if you're feeling like some of these things are hard for you to express, and that could be the root of the problem. I will use my thumb to make chords often, but I will default back to this arched shape when I'm not doing that. You want to avoid always playing the guitar like this, because that's going to cramp up everything and make some things just impossible to reach. So look for that in your playing if you're seeing problems, and see if you can cultivate more of an arch. This is more of like, frankly, a classical guitar kind of angle. And another thing I do is, you'll notice I have my guitar at an angle. I use a guitar strap, and rather than like a classical guitarist might have a footstool, or a flamenco guitarist would prop his guitar kind of up on his right leg lap, so to speak. I use my guitar strap to kind of create an angle that makes this more feasible to have this kind of posture in my hand. If you have your guitar horizontal to you and low, you're going to find you're grabbing it more, and for some kinds of guitar, well, that's just fine. But if we're trying to play these multiple lines together at the same time, and big reaches, this is, I believe, it's going to be a better way to approach it. So this chord progression, let's look at the nuts and bolts of the chord progression before we go any further. We're in A, D, back to A, back to D. Then we're going to do a substitution and go to G. A, G flat, B, D. I learned that progression working with brother Jack McDuff, great B3 jazz organ player, and he taught me a lot about playing blues. Once we were rehearsing Tobacco Road, and my solo came up and I started playing, and he stopped me and looked at me dead straight in the eyes, and he said, "Boy, don't be putting ketchup on my ice cream." Now, what he was saying was he wanted me to play. He didn't need a lot of George Benson jazzy stuff. He wanted to hear the blues. So it was a good lesson in using the right kind of sensibility for the right kind of situation. So I think of Jack McDuff when I play this progression, because this was kind of a progression he liked to use, chord substitutions in blues, which he was a great blues player, but he played it like jazz. So now let's see how this pattern is going to be replicated through the chords of A, D, G, A, G flat, B, D. Let's do that again, slower. Start off playing the melody in thirds. Notice how my fourth finger is going to kind of lead me down to this G. It's a G9 chord. See that? Once again, the fourth finger is the anchor here. We have a new turnaround. This is going to use a descending shape once again against a pedal tone in the top voicings. See that? The fourth finger stays in place. One more time. This is just like a piece of an A chord. I'm just using these three notes on 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and then hitting this open E, open B. Okay? That brings us back to our last 12 bars.